Welcome to Threads of Truth, the podcast where real-life mysteries meet internet speculation. Today, we're going to explore the disappearance of Bryce Laspisa. It's a really tough one. Still resonates today, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of those cases that just sticks with you. Frustrating, deeply confusing, and endlessly debated online. A real digital era mystery.
Definitely. So let's set the scene. Picture this.
Yeah.
Late summer 2013, you got a 19-year-old college kid, Bryce Laspisa. He's starting what should be a pretty standard drive home, right? From Northern California down to his parents' place in Laguna Niguel, Southern California.
Yeah, straight shot down the I-5, maybe 7 hours. Should be straightforward.
Yeah.
Load up the car, hit the road.
Exactly. But it wasn't. He's driving into the night, he's texting friends, calling his family, but his route starts getting, well, weird, erratic. And the things he's saying, his behavior, it's starting to raise alarms for people.
The calls become unsettling. The path makes no sense geographically. And yet when his parents talk to him, he keeps insisting, I'm fine, everything's fine. But that 7-hour trip, it somehow balloons into this bizarre 30-hour plus ordeal.
Just
blows out of
8 hours. Incredible. And then it just stops.
Abruptly, suddenly.
His car, that Toyota Highlander, it's found near Castaic Lake.
Yeah.
And not just parked, it's
wrecked.
Yeah.
Violently overturned. Looks like a really bad crash, actually. Significant damage.
But here's the thing that grabs you, the real twist. Inside the car, what do they find?
Everything. His cell phone, his wallet, his keys, even his laptop. All just sitting there, seemingly intact.
But Bryce himself.
Gone. Utterly vanished. No sign of him anywhere near the wreck. Not a footprint leading away that they could definitively track. Nothing.
It's that paradox, isn't it? The violent crash scene, evidence of trauma, but the essential items for survival or, just existing in the world left behind. And the person just evaporates. It's haunted investigators, his family, everyone for, over a decade now?
It really has. And it perfectly captures this terrifying gray area, this liminal space we talk about sometimes. Is it a deliberate choice to disappear? Is it profound psychological distress taking over? Or is it something else entirely? A sudden accident or foul play? So that's our goal today, Rick. We want to really unpack that whole 30-hour timeline, minute by minute almost.
Yeah. Look closely at the evidence, the physical stuff found at the scene, what it tells us, what it doesn't tell us.
And also try to understand why this case took such a hold online. Why did it become this huge digital mystery that people are still dissecting today?
What does it all mean? Okay, let's get into the breakdown. Right. So to really get a handle on Bryce's disappearance, we can't just start with the crash. We have to go back a bit. Because the signs, the warning signs maybe, they were there before he even got in the car.
That's crucial context. So Bryce David Laspisa, he's 19 years old. He's a sophomore at Sierra College up in Rocklin, which is Northern California. And the drive starts officially late on Wednesday, August 28th, 2013. He'd only been back at college for, 2 days?
Just 2 days into his sophomore year, which seems sudden, right? To just pack up and leave for home again.
Extremely sudden.
Yeah.
That's the first major red flag. The plan, supposedly, was to drive home to his parents in Laguna Niguel, Southern California. Like we said, normally a 7, maybe 8-hour drive if you push it.
But the sources, especially reports from his friends back at college, they paint a picture of someone really struggling in the days just before he left. It wasn't just, I miss home.
No, not at all. Friends reported he was showing signs of pretty significant emotional distress, and his behavior was becoming unusual, even alarming to them.
What kind of unusual behavior are we talking about? What specifically did they notice?
Well, a couple of things stand out. First, he reportedly started giving away some of his possessions, things that mattered to him, like maybe a gaming console, some personal items.
That always sets off alarm bells, doesn't it? Psychologically, giving things away can sometimes mean, detachment.
Exactly. It can be interpreted as preparing for a major change, maybe feeling disconnected from his current life. Or in the worst case scenarios, it can be linked to suicidal ideation or signaling a kind of departure.
And there were messages too, cryptic texts.
Yes. The friends mentioned receiving text messages from him that were confusing, almost nonsensical, not his usual way of communicating. Again, suggesting something wasn't right, maybe a thought process becoming disorganized.
So, we've got this backdrop. A young man just started back at school, suddenly decides to drive home. He's acting strangely, giving away stuff, sending weird messages. That's the state he's in when he gets in the car.
That's the baseline. And that psychological state seems to completely dictate the journey that follows. Because that straightforward 7-hour drive, it was this marathon over 30 hours of just aimless, confusing movement.
Can we trace that journey at all? I mean, geographically, how messed up did it get?
It's honestly baffling when you look at a map. He's meant to be heading south on I-5. Simple enough. But he deviates wildly. He stops in places that make no sense for that route. He seems to drive for a bit, then stop for hours, then start again. There are long periods where his location is unaccounted for. It's not goal-oriented travel at all.
It sounds like someone lost, or maybe someone who doesn't want to reach their destination.
Or someone who's profoundly disoriented.
Yeah.
But here's where the contradictions start piling up. Despite this bizarre journey, he is still communicating sometimes.
Right, that's the confusing part. He didn't just cut off contact immediately. We know he called for roadside assistance at one point, didn't he, on the Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday, August 29th. Sometime during the day, he needed help, ran out of gas, apparently. Someone came out, gave him some fuel.
Okay, so that call is interesting. Why?
Because needing gas and calling for help shows, well, it shows some level of rational thought, right? He recognized a problem, no fuel, and took a logical step to solve it. He interacted with the roadside assistance person. So in that moment, he wasn't completely detached from reality. He could still function on a basic problem-solving level. It suggests maybe he was drifting in and out of whatever state he was in.
So not totally gone, but clearly not okay either. Meanwhile, his parents must be getting frantic. This is dragging on.
Oh, absolutely. They're calling him, texting him, trying to figure out where he is, why it's taking so long. The communication continues, but it's strained.
And that leads us to Thursday evening, August 29th. There are some key calls then, right?
Yes. Around 11 p.m. that night, Bryce talks to his parents again. He's in a town called Buttonwillow. Now, Buttonwillow is off the I-5, but it's still quite a ways north of Laguna Niguel. He's made progress, but it's incredibly slow progress given how long he's been driving.
And what did he say in that call? How did he sound?
According to his family, he told them he was leaving Buttonwillow, continuing south, and he sounded fine. That's the word they used. Fine.
Fine, even though he's been on the road for over 24 hours for a 7-hour trip.
Exactly. It's like he was trying to manage their worry, maybe put up a facade of normalcy, or perhaps in that moment he genuinely felt okay or convinced himself he was. Another flicker of lucidity, maybe.
But that fine feeling or that communication didn't last much longer.
No. The final confirmed contact happens just a few hours later. It's early Friday morning now, August 30th, specifically 2:08 a.m.
And that was a call to his mom.
Yes. He called his mother, Karen. And the message was very short, very simple. He said, "Mom, I pulled off the 5 freeway. I'm going to sleep in my car."
Pull off the 5 decks, like that actually sounds rational. Sensible even, if you're exhausted after driving for so long.
It does sound rational. It sounds like a responsible choice for a tired driver, which makes what happens next even harder to comprehend. Because that was it.
That was the last anyone heard from him, ever.
That's the last known communication. A seemingly logical statement followed by silence. And then the discovery.
So, okay, 2.08 Friday morning, he says he's pulling off to sleep near the I-5. Then, just a few hours later, around 5:30 a.m. the same morning, his wrecked car is found.
That's the window. Roughly 3 hours and 20 minutes between that last call and the discovery of the crash site.
And where exactly was the car found? Near Castaic Lake, you said?
Yes, near Castaic Lake, the large reservoir area, right off the I-5 north of Los Angeles. The terrain there can be pretty rugged hills, brush, access roads. His 2003 Toyota Highlander SUV was found on one of these access roads, not far from the main freeway, but definitely off the beaten path.
And the condition of the car? You said violent. This wasn't just a skid into a ditch.
No, definitely not. The vehicle was found severely damaged. It was overturned, flipped onto its side or roof after apparently driving off a steep embankment. Reports mention a drop of about 25 feet.
25 feet? Wow. Okay, so that's a major impact.
Huge impact. To get that kind of damage, that kind of trajectory suggests significant speed or a complete loss of control, or maybe a very sharp, unexpected turn or drop off on that access road he wasn't prepared for. It screams high-impact event.
With a crash that severe, the immediate assumption would be, well, you'd expect to find the driver inside, likely injured, maybe worse.
That's standard procedure for first responders. assess the vehicle, locate occupants. But the car was empty.
Empty. That's the first big shock at the scene.
The first massive question mark. Where is the driver? And then comes the second one, which is arguably even stranger.
The contents. What was left inside the car?
Exactly. This is the detail that fuels so much of the speculation, the part that makes this case stand out. Investigators found his critical personal items still inside the Highlander.
Let's list them again because it's important.
His cell phone, his wallet containing his ID, credit cards, cash, his car keys, and his laptop computer. All there, inside the wrecked vehicle, seemingly untouched.
Okay. Why is that specific detail so incredibly significant? Why does it change everything?
Because it throws cold water on the most straightforward explanations. Think about it. If Bryce survived the crash, maybe he was dazed, injured, walked away in shock. What's the first thing most people would instinctively grab? Your phone, right?
Yeah.
Your wallet. Especially if you're disoriented and need help.
Yeah, you'd want your ID, a way to call someone.
Right. Or consider the theory that he staged his disappearance, wanted a fresh start. If you're planning to vanish and start a new life, you need your ID. You need cash or cards. You probably want your phone, at least initially.
Leaving all that behind makes absolutely no sense if it was a planned escape. It's like the opposite of what you do.
Precisely. So the fact that he abandoned these essential items strongly suggests that his departure from that vehicle was not rational or planned. It points towards one of a few possibilities. A, he was so severely injured, perhaps with a head trauma like a concussion, that he was acting completely irrationally, not thinking clearly at all. B, someone else forced him to leave the vehicle or removed him from it. Or C, something happened so suddenly, so unexpectedly right after the crash that he had no time or opportunity to grab anything.
It makes the voluntary disappearance theory seem really shaky based on the physical evidence alone.
It really does. The state of the car argues against a simple walkaway, and the contents argue against a planned one.
Now let's drill down into some other specific physical details found inside the car, things that add more layers of complexity. You mentioned blood.
Yes, there was some blood found inside the vehicle. Reports vary on the amount, but it wasn't described as, say, indicative of a massive life-threatening hemorrhage right there in the car. But its presence suggests Bryce likely sustained some injury in the crash. A cut may be something from the impact.
Okay, so likely injured. What else? There was something about a window.
The rear window. This is another really curious detail. The rear window of the Highlander was broken, and investigators didn't think it looked like typical damage from the rollover itself.
Oh, so?
It appeared to have been broken from the inside, possibly intentionally. There was an emergency tool, like a window punch or hammer, that Bryce apparently kept in the center console. The assessment was that this tool might have been used to smash that rear window.
Okay. Why would he break out the rear window? What does that imply?
Well, it could mean a few things. Maybe the main doors were jammed shut from the crash damage, or blocked by the way the car landed. Or perhaps he was in a state of extreme panic and just smashed the nearest available exit to get out as fast as possible. It suggests urgency, maybe difficulty exiting through normal means.
So you have potential injury indicated by the blood and this possibly forceful improvised exit through the back window.
Combine those elements, the severe crash, the missing driver, the blood, the broken window, the abandoned essentials, and you can see why this wasn't immediately treated as just a traffic accident investigation.
Right. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, their homicide division got involved early on, didn't they?
Yes, which is standard procedure in cases with highly confusing or suspicious circumstances surrounding a disappearance or potential death. They were looking at it as potentially a crime scene, or at the very least a highly unusual death investigation, until proven otherwise.
Because all the pieces didn't fit a simple narrative.
Exactly. But despite treating it with that level of seriousness, and despite launching massive search efforts.
What kind of search efforts are we talking about?
Extensive. We're talking search dogs, K9 units, trying to pick up a scent trail from the vehicle. Divers were brought in to search Castaic Lake itself in case he had somehow ended up in the water. Helicopters conducted aerial searches of the surrounding rugged terrain. And numerous volunteer ground teams combed the area for weeks, months afterwards.
A huge mobilization. And the result?
Nothing. No sign of Bryce Laspisa. And crucially, investigators reported finding no clear, concrete evidence trail like distinct footprints leading away from the wreck that could tell them which direction you went after getting out of that Highlander.
He just vanished right there between the crashed SUV and the surrounding wilderness.
Into thin air, it seems, leaving behind a scene packed with questions and almost no answers. Hashtag 3. Internet theories and cultural interpretations.
Okay, so when you have a case like this, I mean, it's got all the elements, doesn't it? The strange behavior beforehand, the bizarre journey, the violent crash, the missing person, the baffling evidence left behind.
It's practically tailor-made for speculation. The known facts are just contradictory enough, just incomplete enough, that they leave enormous gaps. And human nature, especially online, abhors a vacuum. People will try to fill those gaps.
So let's walk through some of the major theories that have swirled around this case online for the past decade. What's the dominant one, usually linked back to his behavior before the drive?
The first, and probably most widely discussed, especially early on, is the psychological episode or substance theory. This one leans heavily on those reports from friends, the emotional distress, giving away items, the cryptic messages, and combines it with the incredibly erratic 30-hour drive.
The idea being that something snapped, essentially. A mental health crisis.
Pretty much. The theory suggests Bryce might have suffered an acute psychological breakdown. This could be due to underlying, maybe undiagnosed mental health issues, or perhaps triggered or exacerbated by intense stress, severe sleep deprivation from the long drive, or potentially substance use.
Substance use comes up a lot in online discussions, particularly stimulants, right? Like Adderall, which is common among college students. The idea being it could induce paranoia or psychosis.
Yes, that specific possibility gets debated frequently online. Could stimulant use, maybe overuse or withdrawal, have contributed to the paranoia, the disorientation, the irrational behavior? It's possible, but there's no concrete proof he was heavily using or abusing stimulants at that time. It remains speculation based on trying to explain the extreme behavior.
But whether it was substance-related or purely psychological, the core idea is that he wasn't in his right mind, maybe experiencing something like a psychotic break or even a fugue state.
A fugue state is an interesting possibility raised by some. It's a rare condition, a type of dissociative disorder where someone temporarily loses their sense of identity, forgets who they are, and might wander away from their life. If Bryce was in a fugue state,
Then wandering off from the crash without his wallet or phone might make a strange kind of sense. He wouldn't know he needed them, might not even know who he was.
it could potentially explain that specific action, yes. The disorientation would be profound, but then you still have the question, what caused the crash itself? Was the crash part of the fugue, a result of the disorientation? Or did the crash happen and then maybe a head injury compounded everything, leading to him wandering off in that state?
It's chicken and egg. Did the mental state cause the crash, or did the crash worsen the mental state?
Exactly. It's an investigative knot. The crash seems violent, suggesting loss of control, which fits with disorientation. But leaving essentials behind fits with post-crash confusion or dissociation.
Okay, so that's the mental health substance angle. What's the counter argument you often see, especially on places like Reddit?
The voluntary disappearance argument. This theory suggests Bryce chose to disappear, that he staged the crash, or maybe the crash was accidental, but he seized the opportunity to escape his life and start over somewhere else.
Maybe feeling overwhelmed by school, relationships, expectations, just wanting a clean break.
That's the general idea behind it, a desire for a fresh start. But as we've already touched on, this theory runs into serious problems when you look at the evidence at the scene.
Yeah, I keep coming back to that. If you're staging a disappearance to start fresh, why on earth would you leave your ID, your money, your phone, the very tools you absolutely need behind in a wrecked car? It seems like terrible planning.
It makes almost no logical sense as a planned action. Crashing your car intentionally is also a very dramatic, risky way to disappear. You could easily get seriously injured or killed. Why not just drive somewhere else and abandon the car intact if you wanted to vanish?
Right. So the physical evidence really seems to undermine the rational choice to disappear theory. The way he left suggests chaos, not calculation.
I would agree. While you can never rule anything out 100%, the evidence points away from a carefully planned voluntary vanishing. His exit seems sudden, forced, or highly disoriented.
Okay, so if we assume he left the car after the crash, either disoriented or forced, what are the theories about what happened to him then? We have the crash scene and then nothing.
This leads to two main lines of thought regarding the immediate aftermath: accidental death versus foul play.
Let's take accidental death first. Given the location near Castaic Lake, the rugged terrain,
The possibility exists that Bryce, perhaps injured from the crash, maybe a head injury causing confusion, disoriented, possibly hypothermic if it was cool that night, simply wander off into the wilderness. He could have become lost, succumbed to the elements, fallen into a remote ravine, or even accidentally entered the lake and drowned. The area is vast.
but the searches were so extensive, right? Dogs, divers, helicopters. Wouldn't they have found something, a body, clothing, anything?
You would think so, and that's the strongest argument against the simple accident theory. Extensive searches usually turn up something, especially with the resources deployed here. However, it's not impossible for remains to be missed in truly rugged terrain or potentially scavenged by animals, making discovery much harder over time. But the lack of any trace is certainly puzzling if it was just an accident nearby.
Which naturally fuels the other possibility, foul play.
Exactly. The lack of remains, combined with those slightly suspicious elements at the scene, the blood, the potentially forced exit through the rear window, keeps the foul play theory alive and well in true crime forums.
What are the scenarios people speculate about within the foul play context?
Generally, two main paths. Path 1. The crash itself was an accident, or resulted from his disoriented state. But after he got out of the car, perhaps injured and vulnerable, he encountered someone else on that access road or nearby. Someone with bad intentions who either abducted him or harmed him and then disposed of his body elsewhere.
So wrong place, wrong time after the crash.
Right. Path 2 is darker. Maybe the crash wasn't accidental. Maybe he was being pursued or something happened that caused it to crash deliberately or under duress. And the person or people involved then made sure he disappeared permanently.
Is there any actual evidence pointing to another person being involved, or is it purely speculation based on the lack of other answers?
It's largely speculation driven by the absence of evidence for other scenarios. No confirmed sightings of anyone else, no direct evidence of a struggle outside the car, but the fact that he vanished so completely, leaving essentials behind, makes people think. Maybe someone else ensured he left empty-handed and couldn't be traced. The longer he remains missing, the more this theory gains traction for some.
There's one other slightly different theory that sometimes pops up, kind of a variation on the disorientation theme.
You might be thinking of the sleepwalker hypothesis or something similar. It overlaps with the fugue state idea.
Yeah, the idea that extreme stress, sleep deprivation, could induce a kind of parasomnia state where he's acting without full consciousness.
Exactly. Like he's on autopilot, perhaps responding to the crash stimulus by exiting the vehicle and just walking. Not really aware of his surroundings or purpose, potentially covering a significant distance before waking up somewhere dangerous or becoming lost. It fits the wandering off without essentials aspect.
It still leads back to that core mystery, though. Where did that wandering lead?
Always back to that same question.
And all these theories, all this debate, it hasn't just stayed in police files or quiet conversations. This case exploded online, became a digital obsession.
Massively so. Bryce Laspisa's disappearance became a fixture on YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, true crime blogs. His face, the timeline, the map of his route, the picture of the crashed Highlander, they became instantly recognizable symbols within those communities.
Why this case, do you think? What made it resonate so strongly in the digital space?
I think it's a confluence of factors. The victim was young, relatable to many. The circumstances were baffling and full of contradictions, inviting endless analysis. The timeline had just enough data points, calls, sightings, to fuel speculation, but not enough to solve it. And it happened right as these online true crime communities were really hitting their stride. It became a sort of digital campfire story, a mystery that everyone felt they could potentially contribute to solving.
A digital era parable, as some have called it. What does that mean?
It means his story took on a symbolic weight beyond just the facts. It became representative of bigger themes. Youth, identity crisis, the pressures facing young adults, the fear of the unknown, the potential for anyone to just vanish off the map, even in our hyper-connected world.
But there's a downside to that kind of viral obsession, isn't there, in terms of ethics, the impact on the family?
Absolutely. While online communities can genuinely help keep a case alive, raise awareness, and even sometimes uncover leads, they can also be harmful. Theories can become wild and baseless, sometimes bordering on victim blaming or being deeply insensitive to the family's ongoing pain. There's a fine line between collective investigation and morbid entertainment. And sometimes you see online empathy fatigue where the real human tragedy gets lost under layers and layers of speculation and content creation. It's a complex ethical area.
Yeah, you see the family trying to use these platforms to genuinely search for answers and then having to sift through just noise and sometimes cruelty.
It's an incredibly difficult balance for them, navigating that digital world while still holding on to hope. #4, analysis and takeaway.
Okay, let's try to synthesize some of this. Analytically, the core difficulty here seems to be that contradiction of control. Yeah. On one hand, you have overwhelming evidence of Bryce losing control, the bizarre 30-hour drive replacing a 7-hour one, the possible psychological distress reported by friends, the violent crash itself. That all points to severe disorientation or breakdown.
Total loss of rational navigation, yeah.
But then, sprinkled within that chaos, you have these moments that seem like attempts at control or rational action. Calling roadside assistance when he runs out of gas. Checking in with his parents, even if he wasn't being entirely truthful about being fine, saying he's pulling over to sleep because he's tired.
Those moments make it hard to just label him as completely gone mentally throughout the entire period. Suggests more of a struggle, maybe. A mind operating at the absolute edge, flickering between profound distress and brief moments of clarity or attempts at normalcy.
Like trying to hold it together, even as things are falling apart internally.
That's one way to look at it. That 11 p.m. call where he sounded fine might have been a desperate effort to project normalcy, maybe even convince himself. Or maybe he genuinely had a brief period of feeling more stable before slipping back into whatever state was affecting him.
And then the final act, pulling over to sleep, that seems like a rational decision born of exhaustion. What does the fact that the crash happened after that, off an access road, tell us?
It potentially suggests the crash wasn't, say, him falling asleep at the wheel at high speed on the freeway. It happened after he'd already stopped, or as he was navigating a secondary road near where he stopped. Maybe he started driving again while still severely impaired by fatigue or his mental state. Maybe he pulled onto that access road thinking it was a safe place to sleep, but misjudged the turn or the embankment in the dark. The violence of the crash still points to a significant loss of control, consistent with extreme fatigue or disorientation, but the location suggests it happened during low-speed maneuvering gone wrong, or starting up again while impaired.
Which brings us back, yet again, to the significance of the belongings left behind. That seems to be the immovable fact in the center of all the theories.
It really is the linchpin, because, as we discussed, leaving the phone, wallet, keys, laptop, it fundamentally undermines the idea of a planned voluntary departure. It shouts panic, disorientation, injury, or external force.
If he was acting rationally, he takes those things. Since he didn't, his actions leaving the car were likely not rational.
Precisely. It strongly favors theories involving severe psychological distress, a medical emergency post-crash, like a concussion leading to irrational behavior, or foul play over the idea that he consciously chose to walk away and leave everything behind. The how and why he left the car remain mysterious, but the fact that he left those items steers the most probable explanations away from planned action.
And amidst all this uncertainty, the confusion, the stalled investigation, you have the family's continued efforts. They haven't given up.
Not for a second. Bryce's parents, Karen and Mike Laspisa, have been incredibly persistent and proactive. They refuse to let the case go cold after the initial official searches scaled back.
What have they been doing?
They've really leveraged modern tools and community support. They embraced social media early on, creating the Find Bryce Laspisa Facebook page, sharing updates, keeping his face and story in the public eye. They've worked tirelessly with volunteer search groups, sometimes using private investigators or specialized resources like drones to re-examine areas around Castaic Lake. They've also been very open to engaging with media, doing interviews, participating in podcasts like this one, all with the goal of generating new leads, new information, or just keeping the pressure on.
It's that parental drive, isn't it? That need for answers no matter how much time passes.
Absolutely. Their advocacy is a powerful reminder that behind every cold case file and every online theory, there's a family living in a state of perpetual uncertainty and grief, desperate for resolution. Their hope endures.
So ultimately, where does that leave us with the Bryce Laspisa case? It feels like it exists in this enduring mystery, this unresolved space.
That's a good way to put it. A liminal space, maybe? The evidence points in multiple directions but fully supports none. You have strong indicators of psychological distress before the trip. You have an irrational journey. You have a violent crash. You have belongings left behind that contradict the planned escape. You have a complete lack of physical evidence after the crash. It doesn't neatly fit the pattern of a typical accident or a typical suicide or a typical voluntary disappearance or even a typical abduction with clear signs of foul play at the scene. It hangs suspended between all these possibilities.
Which means we're left circling back to those same fundamental unanswered questions.
Exactly. The core questions remain stubbornly open. 1. What triggered the sudden, acute psychological shift in Bryce just before he left college?
2. What explains the specific nature and duration of that incredibly erratic 30-hour drive? Was he lost, avoiding something, or in a particular mental state?
3. What were the precise circumstances that led to his SUV crashing so violently off that embankment near Castaic Lake? Was it driver error due to impairment, an accident, something else?
And the biggest one, 4. Where did Bryce Laspisa go in those minutes or hours after exiting the wrecked vehicle, and why did he leave everything behind?
Those questions hang heavy. The Laspisa case is a stark reminder that even in our modern age of surveillance and communication, a person can still utterly vanish, leaving behind just enough clues to create an enduring, agonizing mystery.
It really forces you to confront the limits of what we can know sometimes. The trail just goes cold, right at the edge of the wilderness.
A chilling thought. He went from being in communication, seemingly making a rational decision to sleep, to being completely gone just a few hours later. That transition is terrifyingly abrupt and unexplained.
And that's where the search for answers remains today. It's a story that continues to captivate and frustrate many online, but we always want to remember, behind the clicks and the theories, there's a family, Karen and Mike Laspisa, still waiting, still searching, still hoping for news about their son. Our thoughts are certainly with them.
It's a reminder of the human cost of these unsolved mysteries.
It truly is a haunting case where someone seems to just slip through the cracks right between verifiable contact and concrete evidence. Next time on Threads of Truth, we travel to Ireland to explore the disappearance of Annie McCarrick, the American woman who vanished without a trace after a day trip outside Dublin, leaving behind unanswered questions that still echo through the Wicklow Mountains.